Oh, that smells nice. And the smell of good leather. This packaging reminds me, when I was knee high to a grasshopper in the late 50s, my grandmother used to wrap gifts like this. No, I'm not quite a fossil yet. What this is a video review on a handmade leather belt made by Howling Dingo, an Australian subscriber of mine, known him for quite a few years, and he does a lot of video reviews on vintage and antique bush gear, outdoorsman, great guy, and he also does his own leather work. So I purchased this off Howling Dingo not long ago, and I did ask his permission to do a video review on it, and I'm very happy with this product. This is the leather belt that Howling Dingo makes. He hand makes himself, and for the outdoors people watching this video, one of the problems we found here in Australia, and no doubt in other countries too, is to get a good quality belt, bush belt. Well, this is called the Bushie Belt. I'll do a quick run through. Okay, this belt, made by Howling Dingo, is Australian vegetan cowhide, oil leather dye, solid brass buckle, Australian camel tallow, beeswax and artificial sinew in the stitching here. Now, one of the big failures with belts is the buckle itself, and I'll give you an example. This is one belt I use up until I actually received this. In the bush, where sometimes I double belt, sometimes I'll hang gear off this, like water bottles, a knife and other bits and pieces, which can add quite considerable weight to the belt. The point of failure in most of these belts, and this is the commercially made one, machine stitched, made in China, is the belt buckles fail. Either the tongue, this middle tongue bit here, will bend or snap. You get a fair bit of flex in it where you get this sort of effect, and quite often here the pin that holds the tongue that will either bend or snap off. I don't know how many belts I've replaced over the decades trying to find a good bush belt. The other point too is the eyelets on the belt. Now on this one you can already see there where the leather has started to crack and deteriorate. Very poor quality leather. And of course it's machine stitched. Now on Howling Dingo's YouTube channel, he does recently published a video on the difference between hand stitching and machine stitching, and it's a very good video, and I do recommend you watch it. But this belt here, very good quality, excellent quality leather on it. You can see the belt holes there. They're done in such a way that it reduces the tearing effect as we saw on that belt. The holes are actually punched through, but they're punched through at an angle so that when this metal tongue goes through it, it sits more comfortably. It's a much better fit. The belt itself has no stitching along there, unlike this one or similar types. It's one solid length of cowhide. Now we come to the important bit, and this is where many of these belts fail. This belt buckle is solid brass, not cheap metal junk like that. Also noticed too that the tongue of this is much shorter than on the other belt we just had a look at, and in saying that, the metal tongue here is thicker, and being shorter, a little bit of physics I guess, when you pull the belt up, the shorter length makes it physically stronger. If you look at the back of the buckle, that's what it looks like. That's kind of moulded in there. It may have been cast, I'm not sure, but certainly it's not a mechanical pin type situation as you find in many of these types of belts. And quite often on these belts, these pins here will bend or snap off or just give way. The other very good point about this, and I'm really impressed with it, is that all the stitching here is hand stitched, not machine stitched, and there's a big difference. If you look on Howling Dingo's YouTube video on this particular topic about hand stitching, you'll see that he really knows his stuff, and very impressed with it. The belt loop itself is actually stitched into the belt itself, so you haven't got this rolling effect that you sometimes get with these ones, which can cause wear on the roll points, and you don't get this sliding backwards and forwards, particularly when you're very active outside in the bush, and you know, you've got gear on this belt and that sort of thing. So I do highly recommend this leather product, and Howling Dingo does make other handmade leather products. He sells it online through a website called Etsy, and I'll put the link in down below. He's also on Twitter under the name of Alan Ainsworth, and I'll put his YouTube link in there too. Now, viewers might say, well, how do you know it's a good belt? You haven't tried it yet. True, I haven't. I haven't field tested it yet. But later on in the video, I did a stress test on it. So we'll have a look at that, and this is why I recommend it. This belt. It's a very strong belt, and it will well outlast me as long as you keep the leather preservative up to it. And I do highly recommend it. Howling Dingo also has other types of bush belts there, just different styles of buckles, and perhaps different fixtures along here. He also makes other leather products, all handmade, and he does ship overseas. So thank you, Howling Dingo. I'm very happy with this belt. Excellent. I highly recommend it. And please watch the stress test at the end of this video to prove the point on the weaker points of most belts, as the buckle, stitching and so on like that. Okay, this is a quick stress test on the handmade leather belt from Howling Dingo. And what I've done, we've got a 20 litre jerry can of water here, and it is filled. I don't know if you can see it in camera there. Stick my finger in, it's wet. It's probably about 22 litres. You can squeeze a bit more out of there sometimes. So weight wise, you're looking at around about 20 kilos in weight. That's metric, imperial, 5 gallons, around about, quick conversion, around about 40 pounds, somewhere thereabouts in weight. As we can see, just got it looped over the top of the bull bar on the troopy, and there's no sign of any stress fractures on this part of the belt. Now this is the most, with belts, this is the most weakest point where the buckles fail on them. There's no sign of any failure on that, and I'll just give this a bit of a wriggle just to give it a bit more impact weight, and it's still holding. So that gives you the idea of some idea of the quality and the workmanship that Howling Dingo has put into these bush leather belts. Very strong buckle on them, solid brass. Okay, thanks for watching, viewers. See you later.